What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Mission Z Empowering Change podcast. Brought to you by our sponsors, Long Island Prevention and Resilience Enrichment Program for drug abuse prevention and mental health awareness. Check out all of our programs and find out how our 3 pillars of action will help the students, parents, and professionals in your community face down the ongoing drug overdose and mental health crisis ravaging our communities by going to www.longislandprep.org and our Prep Academy for educator professional development and parent workshops. Our new digital courses delve into the ongoing issues our kids face today, including mental health awareness and drug abuse prevention strategies for teachers in the classroom and parents at home. Teachers can earn credits, or parents can simply take a course to learn how to tackle these issues head-on and help their kids along the way. Learn more by going to www.theprepacademy.org today. And Pioneer Sports, who want you to stop doing it yourself. They help schools, camps, and municipalities start, run, and grow a successful sports program. You can check them out at playpioneersports.com. I'm Paul Vecchione. It's great to be here with you as we bring our conversation to you and discuss the issues that Generation Z, our children, face today. The Mission Z podcast is here to bring people out there who are dedicated to making a difference here with us, to talk about what they're doing and how their work is impacting our world, how they are making a difference to help others around them, and of course, how a call to action can empower change. And that's what we're here to do today. Our podcast is also brought to you by DDS for Vets, who is bridging the gap that veterans face with services that they are entitled to. You can just go to www.ddsforvets.org for more information. And we're really excited to bring on today's guest. He is James Regan, founder of Lodestar Children's Services. James is a social worker and is the executive director this mental health organization whose goal is to help kids. And we're going to get into all of that with James today. So let's bring him on. James, how are you today?
Doing well, Paul. Happy to be here and excited to share about our organization.
Well, we are excited to hear about it. So let's get right to it. Bring us up to speed. What is Lodestar Children's Services? What's its purpose? And how did you come to create it, James?
So Lodestar's mission is to empower children and families. Definitely keep it simple. As I talk about us, hopefully it's going to become clear that that's exactly what we do. We were founded 8 years ago. I am the founder. Certainly have had a lot of help and continue to need a lot of help along the way. But I started with an idea that there really were not enough providers doing this work. And having been in the children's mental health system since probably about 2002, somewhere in there, I really got to see firsthand that working with kids in their homes makes a difference and can really change the whole arc of their life. And being on the other end of it, having spent 9 years in residential programs, I know that those programs need to exist, and some children need to live in those types of places. But I also know that if we invest more in helping kids in their home and directly in their community, you can keep a lot of kids out of institutions. You can keep a lot of kids out of facilities. So it was a scary thing to try to start by myself. I mentioned that I've had a lot of help, but starting it without any funding, starting it really without any assurance that we were going to succeed, it was a really scary step. But we stayed with the idea that we were doing something good, and it's really taken off by leaps and bounds.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. And I have to echo what you're saying in terms of starting something brand new with lack of funding. And, it gets a little scary, like you said. But listen, your organization and what you're doing is so important. So let's talk about mental health for a minute. Let's talk about children's mental health. Obviously, that's your wheelhouse. So tell us where we are in terms of our region. I mean, let's just talk Long Island for now. We're starting to hear a lot about mental health, thank goodness, because I feel like it's long overdue. I know you feel the same, I'm sure. So where are we in terms of a region when it comes to mental health, in terms of, the stigma and shining some light on it, and then ultimately getting kids the help they need?
All right. Well, I think a good starting point to share is I do think New York State has stepped up in a lot of respects where it's really the first time in my career that I've seen that it's starting to be funded like it needs to be. I do think, there is a long way to go, but compared to where we've come from, to give like a really vivid example, like in the old days, you didn't really think cost of living increases were possible. Like with this program, like the rate was the rate, and we talking about a decade without that rate changing, and you just
Mhm.
had to figure out how to keep up with rising costs and inflation, and oh, your staff want raises, and so to start to see the state build in something like a cola might not sound like a lot, but
Mhm.
it's been a really nice shot in the arm, and I think a lot of that started with the pandemic, right? So if we want
Mhm.
to find a silver lining from COVID-19, it's I think it kind of woke some people up to the mental health challenges that are not going away. And
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know if that specifically answers your question, but it is nice to see that we are starting to make progress on funding.
Yeah, for sure. And beside the funding, because look, you and I are both in professions where we deal with children. I'm obviously a teacher, but I also have this, the substance abuse prevention and mental health awareness company with Long Island Prep. So I can totally relate to what you're saying. I feel like COVID-19, it was, like you said, almost like a blessing, right? Because it's almost like people were like, all right, a pandemic sucked, and it did, but there was a problem that was underlying that now I feel like people are finally catching on to. What do you think about that, James?
Yeah, I mean, more conversations are being had for sure.
Mhm.
There's this word stigma that we always talk about,
Mhm.
and I certainly think that the stigma has been reduced. I
Mhm.
think collectively, more people are willing to talk about mental health as a real thing, and not just something that can be dismissed or
Mhm.
just walk it off, like rub some dirt on it, right? Like
Right.
it needs treatment.
Mhm.
People need help in this important area, so that
Mhm.
the analogy that people you can talk about, if you hurt your leg or your abdomen's hurting you, you're gonna go see a doctor, you're gonna go get help. And
Mhm. Mhm.
so many segments of our society for so long, that's not the same when it comes to mental health help.
Right.
People
Right.
dismiss, and they don't take it seriously, and they don't go out and get the help that they should. So I think we've come a long way there. um,
Right.
certainly it's no secret that children children's mental health has suffered greatly as we come out of the pandemic, that started, you know 4 years ago. But um, there is still some hope. There is still some good news. We're doing some things right as a system to be there and give that help that is desperately needed.
Absolutely. So I know that I mean, listen, I want to get into some of the specifics of what Lodestar Children's Services offers, but let's first talk about some of, what are you seeing in terms of, the mental health issues that some of, the kids that you see every day? What are some of the things they're actually experiencing in the real world, that need our attention, that Lodestar, obviously takes attention to, and, what we all need to pay attention to? What are some specifics?
Sure. I mean, what I say, and this is not research based, it's anecdotal. It's based on what I've seen out there with the kids we work with. Like in some respects, like certain things are better. Like we don't see as many outbursts, for example. A lot of the severe behaviors I think went down during COVID, and I think personally, I think it's due to understimulation that was happening.
Mhm.
But where the increase came is um, anxiety and depression, things that make sense to me are going to increase when we have more isolation, more disconnectedness. Like those certainly have been through the roof. So more of the stuff that's internal, right? and not maybe as outwardly apparent. That stuff certainly increased in the last few years.
Mhm, mhm. So, all right, let's talk about then how does Lodestar come into the equation here? Give us a rundown basically of your services if you can, what exactly you do, what your company does, and how, families can kind of look to you guys for help.
Sure. So we actually offered 9 different services across 2 programs, and the difference between the 2 programs, I guess, in a nutshell, you can say one is habilitative, focused on building skills, being proactive to help do the best you can to help a child or a family avoid a serious mental health breakdown or crisis. And then the other set of services is more rehabilitative in nature. It's all right, well, we're having clinical level mental health problems. How can we rehabilitate? How can we teach a child or a family or a teen to cope with what's going on? Um, the services, they're customizable. It's based on what families need. Like we can do job development skills. We can work with a caregiver on their skills or their listening techniques or their coping strategies. And then some of the services are quite clinical, where we're now doing traditional psychotherapy in the home. So for a lot of our kids, that's been great, where they're not great candidates for a traditional clinic. Maybe mom doesn't drive, or the family's too busy raising 6 children to drive to an appointment every week. So we're bringing the psychotherapy to them, so they're not only getting all of the other uh, services, they're getting the clinical level stuff as well. So it's quite a range, and it's all customizable based on what the family wants and what the family needs.
Awesome. So before you kind of mentioned the benefits of actually going into the home, right? So obviously with kids, that's something very specific. There was a lot of I've had a lot of conversations with parents who have found it really, it difficult to get their child out of the house and to an
Mhm.
appointment, like you said. So how does your organization kind of work within the home to make sure that these services are provided, but also that it benefits the kids and the and the parents.
Well, the first thing that us coming to them establishes is back to our mission statement. It empowers them. They're not in our office. We're on their turf. We have to adapt to them, and it kind of communicates this idea of, all right, well, I might be the professional, I might have some education and experience that does matter, but we're doing this together. Like,
Mhm, mhm,
I'm just a worker who's here to help. I'm not driving this bus. You are. So,
mhm,
hey, what can I do to help you today? And it kind of
mhm,
frames it that way in a very important way. But beyond the services, it also, the kind of takes away a lot of the harmful stuff of getting yanked out of your home. You don't have to change schools. You don't have to
mhm,
change doctors. You don't have to change where you do your clothes shopping or your grocery shopping. Like, you're still in the same neighborhood, and there's
right,
so many valuable pieces to that come along with us bringing the help to them that
right.
really can't be minimized.
So, talk to me about how the parents play, into all this, because again, just having conversations with parents who have kids who have, suffered from some mental health issues, a lot of times it's, sometimes the providers don't even see the actual, patient in with the, child. And I'm not sure if this is the case with you, but I'm learning a lot about, it's a lot about training the parents how to deal with certain things, with what their kids are going through. Is that right?
Sure is, yeah. So, something that I think tends to happen a lot that's frustrating for me is I think people want to paint with a broad brush and say, oh, the parent must be doing something wrong, or they're screwing this kid up. And
Mhm, mhm,
my experience is the opposite. Almost every situation, you have parents doing the best that they can, and it's challenging. A lot
mhm,
of our parents are overwhelmed. They're
mhm.
just overloaded or just emotionally stressed, right? So a starting point for the work we do with a lot of our families is just that listening ear, like giving them the chance to vent to someone who can understand or have an idea of what they're going through, and then um, that's not all we're doing is allowing families to vent, but that piece is an important function for
Right.
that they find useful. And from there, I think a lot of the times we feel we're kind of received like the cavalry of like, hey, my gosh, thanks. At last, there's some meaningful help in my child's life. And the longer we're in with a family, the more they trust us and get to know us and start to see, all right, well, we're not miracle workers, but we can help them create a path forward.
Right. And do you feel like educating the parents, it's almost like having a partner in what you're trying to do?
Absolutely. So still empowerment based. Like, a line I used to use when I was working directly with families was, I'm not going to be here in 5 years. I might not be here in a year. So, it's from day one. Maybe your son bonds with me, and maybe we do some good work. That's the hope. But from day one, he's got to get used to the idea of, all right, well, this is not a forever solution, right? So,
Mhm, mhm.
um, they're our partners certainly, but we're preparing them for the idea that, eventually they're gonna be able to do it without us.
Right.
That's the hope and that's the goal.
Do you feel like parents are receptive to that? Because listen, I feel like, especially working, with parents through the school district and things like that, it's almost like they're like, okay, you're the expert, you do your work, but it doesn't really work that way sometimes with mental health because they're obviously in the home and living with that child a lot more, right? So how have the parents received that approach?
Sometimes it's a process. It can be a slow process, but people people come around, right? If a certain way of doing things that clearly is not having success, then you know by default, eventually you're going to say, all right, well, this other approach has some merit. So
Mhm,
a common example, our most popular service is respite,
mhm,
and the state actually has designed that service where we emphasize, all right, a worker's going to come for 3 hours a week or 4 hours a week, and you're going to use that parent as a break. It's a planned
mhm,
break for you, where you
mhm.
don't have, you can unplug from the stress of
Right.
raising a child that can sometimes be difficult. And
Mhm,
one of the common pitfalls we have is when we take that child out for respite, they're supposed to be able to do socialization or recreation or get out into the community. And sometimes
mhm,
we see caregivers that want to stifle that if the child's not behaving. Oh, he had a
mhm,
bad week. You shouldn't be taking
mhm.
him out. And,
Right.
we want to empower them. And obviously, it's ultimately their choice on how they parent their child and not ours. But we would
Right.
try to impress, like, hey, they're supposed to go out even though they've had a bad week. Like, respite should not be a punishment. Like, they should
Mm,
still get their community integration, or they should still
mhm.
get their socialization or recreation. And
Right.
I mean, that's one clear example of sometimes where we butt heads. There might be some people listening to this podcast saying, "Yeah, I agree with that parent. My kid acts out; he's not getting rewarded." And so,
Right.
so that then becomes a dialogue. And
Yeah.
neither, we're not gonna force feed our will. That's not our role. But we're gonna stand our ground that, hey, this is what we recommend.
Love it. And it's probably, listen, humans are humans, which means there's no widgets here. Everybody's different, right? And there's
Mhm.
obviously not, the same approach, but for part of what we're trying to do for our message is, look, we need a real hands-on approach with a lot of partners. So we're talking about parents, we're talking about schools, and we're talking about, like you said before, maybe some, the state government's getting, involved. So talk about how you work with different organizations that involve kids like schools or like the
Mhm.
government, to really be able to implement what you do and how they kind of play in that role for you.
Sure. The biggest professional partners we interface with are care managers.
Mhm,
Um, so we're considered direct service providers, but the care manager role is to somebody who's kind of just coordinating all of the care for that child. So that's
mhm,
the person that's supposed to really be ensuring that the school knows what Lodestar is doing, and that Lodestar knows what the pediatrician's doing, and the pediatrician knows what the psychiatrist is doing. And
mhm,
So, a lot of the big social service agencies on the island are the ones running care management, Family Service League and SCO,
Mhm,
Northwell Health, for example.
mhm,
Uh, Nassau County has Family and Children's Association, and there's a whole slew of others. And our management team spends a big part of their time making sure we're having effective conversations with those guys, because that's easy to miss when they
mhm,
don't work for your agency. That there's just going to be some natural challenges to keeping strong communication. So we work very hard at that, because that's an area that is pivotal and can break down pretty easily. Um, the same goes for schools. At intake, it's a parent's choice. Like, they
right,
have to give us permission to be able to talk to school personnel. But when
mhm,
they do, we're gonna do our best to establish a relationship with the school psychologist, or the
mhm,
guidance counselor, or the classroom teacher, whoever um, is whoever are the important stakeholders in that
mm,
child's life. So
yeah,
a lot of
excellent.
teamwork to this.
A lot of teamwork, a lot of work within, the communities. And James, you and I will get into that after the break. Let's first take a minute to hear from the people who make the Mission Z podcast possible. Sponsors for the Mission Z podcast are Long Island Prevention and Resilience Enrichment Program. Working directly with schools, Long Island Prep has created a 3 pillars of action plan to provide drug abuse prevention education for kids in schools, community awareness and professional development for educators, parents, and professionals in our communities, and new early identification and intervention technology for crisis intervention teams in schools and parents at home. Learn more about Long Island Prep and the 3 pillars of action by visiting our website, www.longislandprep.org, and of course, our Prep Academy for educator professional development and parent workshops. Our new digital courses delve into the ongoing issues our kids are facing today. Teachers can earn credits, or parents can simply take a course to learn how to tackle these issues head on and help their kids along the way. Learn more by going to www.theprepacademy.org today. Pioneer Sports, who want you to stop doing it yourself. They help schools, camps, and municipalities start, run, and grow a successful sports program. You can check them out at playpioneersports.com. Today's podcast is also brought to you by DDS for Vets, who is bridging the gap that veterans face with services that they are entitled to. Go to www.ddsforvets.org for more information, and don't forget to check out Long Island Prep's Night of Inspiration at Mulcahy's Pub and Concert Hall on May 23rd. It's going to be a very special night with dinner, entertainment, and some really great guest speakers and honorees. We have former New York Jet Paul Fraze, the PS I Love You founders, Brooke and Jamie De Palma. Jackie the Joke Man Martling will be there to give us some laughs. Ray Cash Care, the Navy SEAL who saved Captain Phillips and inspired the movie with Tom Hanks. So a real night of inspiration. It's going to be a lot of fun. Just go to www.longislandprep.org for more information and tickets for this amazing event we have planned to celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month on May 23rd. So we're here talking to James Regan, founder and executive director of Lodestar Children's Services. We're having a great discussion with him, and we want to hear all about your program with peer support, James. So let us know.
Sure. So it's an area that, again, New York State has done a great job in promoting and investing more in, and we have 2 services: one for youth, and one, again, for the parent or caregiver, where the worker is required to have what we call lived experience. So for the youth, we hire someone between 18 and 30 years old that is actually shared that they have a mental health story, that they've received treatment in their life, or that they've been involved in a similar system, such as foster care or juvenile justice or developmental disabilities. Um, and as you can imagine, those guys can sometimes be the most effective impact in a child or
Mhm.
a teen's life, because they're coming at it, like, again, empowerment. They're coming at it from the same place as the child who's listening to them. Like, hey, I've walked in your shoes. I'm still walking in your shoes, and um, this is what I've found to be successful. So same for the family. where
Right.
the worker is required to have raised a child with special needs, and makes them much more equipped than someone who hasn't raised a special needs child to be able to relate to what that family and what that parent or caregiver is going through.
Absolutely. I mean, peer support is a huge thing, and I can imagine it's only super helpful for what you're trying to accomplish, with these kids. And we kind of mentioned it before in terms of the community involvement, and I know you've got something pretty big going on right here in Babylon Village coming up also during Mental Health Awareness Month. It's going to be May 4th. And to tell us all about that right now, we are going to be joined by Noel Arabello here to tell us all about the May 4th event with Lodestar Children's Services. So, Noel, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. Happy to
My
be here.
pleasure. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get right to it. I was telling James before we're going to put the flyer right on the podcast, so you don't have to worry about that. But let's hear all about it. We're very interested. Tell us about it.
Great. Yeah. So we decided this year for May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month, that we wanted to do something different. And we got permission from the village to have an event there. So we decided to make it about health in all aspects. And we're calling it Wheels for Wellness. But we're allowing more than just wheels. You can walk, you can run, you can bike, you can roller skate, skateboard, push that stroller, anything, as long as it's not motorized, except for if it's to help as like a wheelchair or something like that. And basically you're going to start at the gazebo in Babylon Village across from the Argyle Park, and then you're going to go on a path to the Babylon Pool and back, and that's 3 miles. If you choose, you could do it twice, which will be 6 miles. Or you can, if you're going to walk, you can always just cut it short if you want to too. We're very lenient. We want everyone to have fun. We want families to come, kids to come. And then afterwards, we're going to have a little celebration at the gazebo. We're going to have food. We're going to have the Shark FM 94.3 there. And we're going to have some people from businesses, local businesses joining us. As of right now, we have Sheriff Toulon as our guest speaker. So we're excited about that. Hopefully that doesn't change. And some games for the kids, free. The celebration portion is free. The wheel portion is a fundraising portion. So we're hoping that people will help us out there by getting tickets for that.
Right. Very cool. All right. So again, James and I did kind of go through the importance of just raising awareness for mental health. That's part of, I guess, the obstacles that I'm trying to overcome. Obviously, that Lodestar Children's Services is also trying to overcome. So talk about how that's going to happen that day. I mean, we're trying to get everybody out. What's the basic message of what you're trying to do with this event on May 4th?
Yeah, so one of the things we've been lacking over the years is just eyes outside of our supporters on who we are and what we do. And having an event in a place like Babylon Village on the streets, where once the streets are open again after our wheelathon, people can be driving by and see that we're there and who we are. The Shark FM and all the other radio stations that are involved with Connoisseur Media, Walk 95, to name one, I don't know them all. They're all going to be promoting us and just getting the word out there about Lodestar Children's Services and what we can do for you, for your families, for your youth. It's just an exposure that we haven't had before. So just letting everyone know that we're here and that we can help.
I love it. I'm all about it. I did my own event last year in Babylon Village, and I've got to tell you, people will come out. People are interested in this topic. It obviously impacts everybody. In fact, this past week, I can just speak from experience, just hearing things with kids in school or family members or friends. It's mental health is something we each need to pay attention to. So I feel like having an event such as yours to get the message out is such a great way to kind of bring the community together to get this message out that we need to drop the stigma, raise awareness, and get get people the help they need. Right, Noel?
Yes, definitely. That's exactly why we're doing this.
Yeah. All right. So what time does this awesome event start?
So the kickoff for the wheel portion, we're aiming for 10:30. So people can arrive by 10 if they're going to participate in that part. And then we're aiming for 11 o'clock start time for the rest of the event. Of course, I'm saying aiming because it's our first time doing it and we don't know what kind of setbacks we're going to have, but hopefully we'll start on time.
Yeah. And we hope there aren't setbacks, but sometimes things happen, I can tell you. But no, listen, I'm super excited. I am definitely going to be down there. I know we had a conversation about how we can help each other, so I'm super excited about that. And listen, I think it's super important work, and I'm really, really fired up for you guys. Let's get a lot of people out there this year.
Thank you so much for helping us out.
Anytime. So, how can we buy tickets? Where do we go to learn more? Give us some websites, give us some social media. What do you got?
Good point. You can go to our website, which is www.lodestarcs.org. So that's LOD as in dog, not N, LODESTARCS.org. And then go to our events section and look up Wheels for Wellness. And we have other events going on there too. So that's a good way to find out what we're doing. And you can also find us on Facebook, and you can also find us on Instagram, lodestarcs.org.
Outstanding. All right, let's get the word out. Let's get a lot of people there. This May 4th, Wheels for Wellness through Lodestar Children's Services. Noelle Arbella, thank you so much for joining us. I just want to I have one more question for James, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
Sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Yep. So there is a parent who's concerned about their child, and they don't know where to turn, what to do, and who to contact. Talk us through that process for you guys.
Okay. For starters, we field those calls all the time. Even if we're not able to help them directly, we're going to do our best to point them in the direction of someone who can. So yeah, I mean, we've probably taken at least average of 5 of those phone calls per week. But a good starting point for most people, if you have a child struggling with mental health issues, is every county has a SPOA office. SPOA stands for Single Point of Access, and that's supposed to be the starting point for a family that is going through that and doesn't know what to do. I don't have all the numbers memorized, but in Suffolk County, SPOA is 631-853-8513, and the staff over there can give you a rundown of programs that you might be eligible for. There's, again, as the single point of access, there's a standardized application that you could fill out that can help you access the programs that you'd be eligible for. But I think, again, when we were talking about stigma before, psychotherapy is often stigmatized, and that's generally going to be the best starting point for anyone. I don't care how old you are. If you're having significant mental health issues, that's generally one of the first things to put into place and to try. It can be very valuable for everybody. Even I've, sometimes you think someone doesn't fit the criteria, but I've worked with nonverbal clients that benefit from psychotherapy. So SPOA is a good starting point. Psychotherapy is a good starting point. And again, we're always happy to field those phone calls.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you both so much for your time. James Regan and Noelle Arabello from Lodestar Children's Services. Keep up the great work. We're looking forward to May 4th for Wheels for Wellness in Babylon Village. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining the Mission Z podcast. We will see you then.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Sponsors for the Mission Z podcast are Long Island Prevention and Resilience Enrichment Program. Working directly with schools, Long Island Prep has created a 3 pillars of action plan to provide drug abuse prevention education for kids in schools, community awareness and professional development for educators, parents, and professionals in our communities, and new early identification and intervention technology for crisis intervention teams in schools and parents at home. Learn more about Long Island Prep and the 3 pillars of action by visiting our website, www.longislandprep.org, and of course, our Prep Academy for educator professional development and parent workshops. Our new digital courses delve into the ongoing issues our kids are facing today. Teachers can earn credits, or parents can simply take a course to learn how to tackle these issues head on and help their kids along the way. Learn more by going to www.theprepacademy.org today. Pioneer Sports, who wants you to stop doing it yourself. They help schools, camps, and municipalities start, run, and grow a successful sports program. You can check them out at playpioneersports.com.